We're going to work on this new Argo today. Got some ideas of how to clean it up and also check the fluids in it, and then we'll do a little walk around and probably get ready to sell it. So this is the 8x8 Magnum model. It does have a winch already mounted on it. Then you've got the front bench and the rear seats. It also has a hitch on the back. It's got some mismatched tires, but that's all right. We do have tracks that go around the front 3 tires. Pretty cool. And under the hood here, it does have a newer 20 horsepower Honda. It's not much to look at, but it's nice to have a bit of a newer engine with more horsepower. It's kind of a cool way these Argos are set up. So you've got the engine mounted here, and then it's got a pulley setup with clutches similar to a snowmobile. And then in here, that's your transmission. And in order to steer left and right, you've got these 2 brakes controlled by the handles there. And from the brakes, there's a chain on that side to drive those wheels. And then there's another chain in a shaft here, which drives the 4 wheels on the left side. So I think it's quite a stout unit, and let's get into working on it. First thing we're going to do here is test the battery health. So when we went and bought this Argo, we had to use the booster pack to boost it. It was all covered in ice, -15, so it was pretty cold. So the starter works right now. And when I flick this switch to show the battery voltage, it comes on, but it's just over 10 volts, so let's do a check. I got those clamps hooked up to the battery, and now on my battery tester, you can see it's only got 11.6 volts. We'll do a little test here. I already set that up. And it says we're bad. So I might have to throw the charger on it, see if we can revive this battery. Got the charger hooked up. We're going to set it on a timer while we're out here, and then in case we forget it, it'll turn off. Another thing I wanted to check is if all the tires hold air. So when I got the Argo, this box in here has 6 tire tubes. So we've got enough in case one of them goes flat, but I think they're all holding air at the moment. I was able to pump them all up to 10 psi, and I think they're holding minus that one. And now for a quick overview on this engine. It's pretty straightforward. It's a 2-cylinder overhead valve. You can see right in there, that's your dipstick. So I've got the other end of it. There we go. Yank it out. Make sure we get this handle out, and here we go. Wait, there's the dipstick. It looks just a little bit above the top line, so I'm pleased with that. Oil also looks pretty clean, so I'm going to carefully feed it back in there. And oil is checked. And with this being a different engine, I think there's been some exhaust work done here, so different clamps and hoses to get in here, but this covers off, so I'm going to find a way to mount that better so it doesn't pop out. Don't want anything going in there when it's hot. Also, it did melt a little bit. I think I'm just going to leave it, but it'd be nice to be able to tidy up that. So I figured out the problem with this grate. When these screws were installed, there's some on top and then in here, it's actually sticking out from the surface. So when you try and slide this cage in there, this vertical piece is hitting it. So I'm going to try and screw that screw back in. And then also what I've been able to do is stick this in the vise and just bend it slightly. So I've cleared those first 2, just got to work on this last one, then it'll sit nice and flush. Okay, final test fit. I think we got this corner down, so there we go. Nice and smooth. I like it. So just thought I'd check the brake fluid. The left side reservoir full, and you can see it right at the top of the sight. But on this side, not sure the camera picks up, but it's halfway in the sight. So I'm thinking there's a leak there. Next, watch down at the caliper. The right side's a bit soggy, and you can see it's leaking there. So we're gonna have to fix that. There's a bunch of brake fluid there, and it's dripping all over there and even into the floor pan, so that'll need to be repaired. So before I go tearing this caliper apart, I decided first I'll just tighten the nut on top here. I'm also going to tighten these Allens on top and bottom of the caliper. Basically that'll just tighten it up, because I can see the split right here. It kind of gets a little loose when I pull on the handle, so we'll give it a go. Everything's clean now on that caliper, and when I pulled the brake lever, nothing was happening and there were no leaks, so hopefully it's good next time we test drive it. So I took apart the throttle here. When I would pull on it, the throttle over here would get stuck wide open, which is kind of a problem sometimes, and then it would never return back to the normal spot. So I couldn't get it worked out right now, but we'll come back with a different sort of grease later, and hopefully it'll help it out. Okay, last thing to check is the oil in this transmission. There's a drain plug right here that I've already loosened. I'm going to pull it out the other side. So with the dipstick loosened, it's also a breather tube. And pull it out here. And we can check the level. The oil is right up to that indent, so I'm quite pleased. Oil looks pretty clean as well, so we're good. And this tube is a breather tube, like I said. And it is clear all the way through, so just go and reinstall it. You got to watch these bolts, they get in the way when you're screwing it. Okay, and we'll do the final tighten on it. Looks good, breather's clear. So I guess ready to pack it up. I'm going to inspect these tensioners. Look what I found when I pulled out the floor pan. There's an old tensioner broken down here, and I think there's also a spring. Yeah, it's probably not what you want underneath there to get caught, but anyways, I'm going to take a look and inspect these springs, make sure everything's greased, and then we'll put it all back together. So to finish off, I just greased all of the grease points on the bearings in the rear and also in the front, and now we're just going to throw the tub back in. Also, while I was in there greasing, look at this. I found an old tensioner and a bunch of springs, also pencils, so good thing I cleaned those up. Alright, that was a fun evening in the shop. Got everything buttoned up, and it's looking pretty good. We're going to give it a pressure wash at some point, and we always like to have things ready to sell in case, you know, someone gives us the right price. But either way, it'll be fun while we've got it. Just going to have to check on that brake while we're test driving it, but besides that, watch for our next video on this.